In earlier movies, we saw how we could add game content to a level by using the game object menu to add cubes, cylinders, spheres, and those kinds of objects. And we saw also how we could source assets from the asset store in the case of a robot mesh. In both cases, however, the assets were pre-made assets that we sourced from third parties. What I want to do now is to show you how you can take your own custom-made assets from content creation software, how you can export it from those applications and bring that into Unity to include inside your levels. What I have open in front of me here is not the Unity engine at all. It is in fact the 3D modeling application called Blender. This is an application for creating 3D models. Now, you may be familiar with other software similar to this, like 3ds Max or Maya. It really doesn't matter because the basic kind of workflow and the guidelines that apply to 3D modeling applications are pretty much consistent. So even if you don't use Blender, it's still well worth watching this video because it contains lots of valuable advice. So in the case of this Blender program here, I have a 3D model in front of me inside the viewport, this Suzanne monkey head here, and I want to export this from the Blender application and bring that into Unity. Now, the procedure for doing this, first of all, is to select the model inside the scene, and we need to collapse the modifier stack. We need to make sure that all transformations and modifications applied to this model are simply flattened to the model so that we don't have any additional information being exported with this character. To do that inside Blender, I'm going to select the model here and then simply choose Object and choose Apply and then choose Location and Rotation and Scale. So I'm going to apply the location of the object. I'm then going to choose Object, Apply, and then choose Rotation and Scale to apply that. If I display the properties, the transformation properties for this object using the N panel, you can see that the location is 0, the rotation is 0, and the scale is at the default value of 1, 1, 1, and that is exactly what we need to export this object correctly. The next thing that I want to do is to make sure that the object is selected here inside the viewport, and then choose File, and then select Export, and I want to choose FBX. Now this is very, very important. When you want to export content from your 3D modeling software to Unity, make sure that you're using the FBX format. You can export to a range of other formats, but the optimum format, the format that works best for importing content into Unity, is the FBX format. So I'm going to select FBX. When I do this inside Blender, we get the export dialog appear that gives me a range of options for customizing how this model is exported, and there are a few options that I need to specify here for this to export correctly. Under this section here, I want to make sure that on the bottom left hand side that I've enabled the selected checkbox here for selected objects. This will make sure that only the objects selected in the scene will be exported and not other additional objects like cameras and lights. In this case, I just want to export the selected mesh. Now, the next thing I want to make sure is that the scale factor here is set to 1, in which case it is, so I'm going to leave this set as it is. I'm going to scroll down a bit further and we have these blue selected boxes here which allow us to customize exactly what is exported among the selected objects. In this case, I just want to export the selected mesh, so I'm going to activate that option. If I wanted to select additional meshes, I can hold down the Shift key on the keyboard and click on additional things. So for example, if I wanted to export meshes and cameras, I could shift select the camera and the mesh to export those two objects among the objects that are selected. But in this case, I'm just going to activate mesh because that is the only thing that I want to export from the Blender software. We then do have other tabs. For example, we have the Geometries tab, we have the Armatures tab and the Animations tab. I'm going to leave all of those options at their defaults. And then finally, for the version, I'm going to make sure that we select FBX 7.4 binary here. And then I'm going to simply name the FBX file to monkey so that we have monkey.fbx. And then simply click the Export FBX button here on the top right hand side of the export dialog. This will go ahead and export one single file, monkey.fbx, And as we'll see in the next movie, we can take that monkey.fbx file and import that into Unity.